you've been having a wonderful, wonderful week. And even if not, that's okay too. I'm here to make your life better, if only to bring you some comfort. But I've got some really good stuff to teach you, guide for you. I don't know. You can either turn your brain off and listen to the comforting sound of my voice, or you can listen up and I'll make your life better. And a reminder that I am testing out a bit of a ramble format. So I'll be pausing to cough or to yawn or to take a sip of water. Actually, it's not water. I'll talk about that soon. And you'll hear various sounds that are like you'll hear one like little popping sounds, things like that. Well, it's all part of the fun. It's all the real me. And that's been one of the biggest bits of feedback recently, is that the more real I am, the better it is. There seems to be a desire for realness. I guess Be Real is the latest social media, which I would love to be on, although I'm not showing my face, at least for now. I don't know. I was just thinking about what a face reveal would be. It's extremely unlikely, but you never know where the garden is going to grow. And if I did a face reveal, it would be some kind of epic thing. So dream on for now. But dreaming is the topic of this week's podcast. And I guess we'll start with a quote and then we'll end with a poem. So this quote is from me, and it goes like this. Sometimes the people who love you will tell you to be humble and give up on your dreams. This is me giving you permission to ignore them. This is me giving you permission to take the risk and pursue a life of the extraordinary. Well, does that quote surprise you at all? The bit about people who love you not wanting you to follow your dreams, wanting you to be humble, does that make sense to you? It is kind of counterintuitive, and I will say that the people who love you will commonly give you this kind of advice, but in a very buzzwordy way. And if you really look at it and you start to notice, maybe it's your parents telling you what to have majored in or what to major in the future in college or university. Maybe it's those same parents influencing you on what career to get into. Maybe you compete in a sport or some kind of activity and your friends are eager to tell you how unlikely it is that you're going to succeed. It's a bizarre thing that at least I've experienced in my life. And I had a crossroads not too long ago, a little bit more than a year ago, where I had to choose, or got to choose. I came upon a fork in the road, and I could choose the low risk option and play it safe and be humble and just kind of go along with what my loved ones wanted me to do, actually. Or I could take a risk and shoot for the extraordinary. And the one person in my family whom I truly admire, who encouraged me to take the risky route, was one who took the risky route himself and became a millionaire as an artist. And the risk that I took eventually has led to the garden existing. So I'll be talking a little bit about how I got there. It's a little bit of a garden origin story, but it's more related to something that's useful to you. So this episode is especially useful if you're at a point in your life where you feel a little bit aimless, or if you listened to last week's episode, which if you haven't, it's an excellent one, I present you with a fork in the road. So listening to that episode may, in fact, change your life. And I would argue it will change your life. Because if you emailed me, which many little bunnies did, saying that they would make me proud 1 year from now, then that's the beginning to some incredible things happening in your life. So that's your fork in the road. And for this episode, to prepare, I thought back to my fork in the road. And I have some guidance for you. So in last week's episode, I mentioned to tell me what that first step is. So the whole point is that a year from now, you're going to be moving in the direction of the life you want to live. And I said, if you don't know what that is, your task is going to be to clean your room. And I got a lot of emails saying that little bunnies are going to clean their room, which tells me that a lot of little bunnies want to get out of this place in their life. And they want to move towards something incredible, but they don't quite know what that is yet. Or maybe you have a vague idea of where you want to go, but you haven't defined it. So anyway, I did some thinking back to when I had, there's two moments. One is when I was living in the period of desperation. I don't know what we'll call it. And I certainly had no hope. I had no aim. I had no vision. All I had to focus on was getting through each day. And even then, I was extraordinarily fortunate to have a good psychiatrist with good medication, which it takes a lot of time to balance the right medication, unfortunately. But I'm very pro medication, psych medication specifically, in the garden. And I hope if you have some kind of chemical imbalance in your brain that you seek medication, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I take it to this day, and I will probably take it. In fact, I hope to take it forever. And then I had a therapist, which is incredibly, incredibly useful. And then I had parents to feed me and give me a bed to sleep in and give me an internet connection. And I think with those three things, you can scrape by. So even though I was living a life of desperation, I must say I had a lot of things working in my favor. And I'm going to try and be here for you as much as I possibly can in the ways that I can, just in case you don't quite have those things working for you. Okay, so let's say you're in a period of desperation. For me, there was an incredible moment. It was a conversation with my dad, because my dad was wonderful in this period. He kind of helped me in ways that I am helping you. And we had long, long conversations. And there was the first moment of hope and joy that I had experienced. Maybe it had been in a year, or maybe it was 6 months. I'm not quite sure how long it was. But after a long period of time of just every day, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You're just trying to survive until you can fall asleep, because when you're asleep, you get to forget the horrible, horrible state of being awake is. So anyway, there was a first glimmer of hope. And it was the idea that I could rebuild a life and become a New York City composer. So I'm doxing myself a little bit, but I think it's important for me to be brave and to share my story, at least enough so that you can take some lessons and apply it to yourself. So the beginning of my rebirth, my resurgence, my redemption story, I don't know what you call it, was this little glimmer of hope. The idea that I could be a New York City composer. And I was living in a different city with a very different feel than New York City. But what is it about this idea that worked? So let's talk about you. Basically, it was a dream. And I had this dream and it became codified, which means I could describe it very clearly what this dream was. And if you're in this state and you sent me an email that says, Daddy, I want to make you proud. A year from now, I'm going to email you, but I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to email you that I'm cleaning my room. Well, this is the episode to help tell you what the next step is after cleaning your room. So it's the ingredients of a dream. And I never, ever want to give you junk. I hate to say advice, but junk advice. I don't want to guide you based on garbage that has been circulating around because it kind of sounds true. I really, really, really take the time to reflect on my own experiences and academic literature when it's relevant and when I'm aware of it. And so after figuring out what is different about my life now, because I really am living my dream life now. I live an extraordinary life right now. And my life basically started, I had to return to a place of zero a number of years ago. And so I thought about what is the difference between where I am now and where I was then, and that moment that kicked it off, the New York City composer idea. So how is my life different now? And it comes down to 4 ingredients. So as I read out these 4 ingredients, I want you to try and figure out what it means to you. If you don't know what your dream is, or you have a little bit of an idea, but you haven't quite put it into words, just think of these 4 ingredients and see if you can find the answers they are for you. I'm going to list them, then I'll tell you what my answers are. Then I will tell you the dreams of some buddies in the Discord, and then we will go through and we will codify your own dreams. Okay, here we go. Let me take a sip of tea. Tea ASMR. Here we go. My tea is cold right now because this is my 4th time, maybe 5th time trying to record this podcast, because the other ones were boring, little bunny, and you deserve something wonderful to listen to. Okay, your 4 ingredients. Are you ready? You can write this down if you want. There will be ample times to write this down. And in fact, I encourage you at the end of this episode, in the last section, which I'll tell you when, either grab a note in your phone, or if you like to have a physical journal, get your colored markers and things like that. And we're going to write down your 4 ingredients. Okay, here they are. Mine, in this order, are values, people, game, and location. Values, people, game, and location. What does that mean, Daddy? That makes no sense. Well, let me explain. So, imagine, we'll take my life, for example. I'm in a state, a totally blank slate, although I will acknowledge that I had the wonderful support that I listed already. But there was a lot of work to do, because a dream life does not manifest automatically. You have to figure out what the dream is, and you have to figure out how to get there. So, first step of mine, I did so much journaling. I journaled probably 3 or 4 hours a day. And this is what I came up with. So the first one, these are the ingredients for a dream life. The first one for me is values. So I had to figure out, what are my guiding principles? Values. What does it mean to lead a good life? What does it mean to lead a moral life? What are the rules that I want to give myself, or what is the best version of myself that I want to be? When I think of the best version of me, it's not necessarily the activities that I do or the place I am at or the people in my life. Who am I? What are the traits that I hold? And for me, I don't really ever want to give you advice on religion, because I think that's a wonderful exploration for you to go on yourself. That's kind of a rite of passage to navigate that aspect of your life. But for me, I don't believe there's an inherent purpose that is given us in our lives. But that doesn't mean that we don't have one, or rather, it means that we have the opportunity to give ourselves a purpose in life. And it's either something that you design yourself, or it's something that you might already have deep down, and you have to go discover it. So for mine, I spent a lot of time figuring this out, but my purpose of life, which you can use or you can find your own, is I want to prioritize my own happiness and fulfillment while also leaving a net positive effect on civilization, sacrificing neither for the other. That's going to be the quote of a podcast someday. Let me put it in more conversational terms. Basically, I want to make myself happy, and I also want to make the world a better place. However, I don't want to pick one or the other. And the good news is that this is possible. That's the only reason it works. It's not like you get to choose. Either you have a life where you prioritize your own happiness and you lead a happy life, but you're also screwing over everyone else. And then conversely, you might think, oh, well, you can make the world a better place, but you have to give up on your dreams in the first place. Did you ever see the Christmas movie? We are going to have a case study when it comes to Christmas time on the movie It's a Wonderful Life. When I first saw that movie in high school, I thought it was so inspiring. This guy sacrifices his own happiness for the sake of other people. And when you watch it again, after I've done all this journaling, I've done a lot of thinking, and I've discovered what my own morality is. It's kind of a tragic movie in some ways, because it sets up this false choice that you have to pick one or the other. Okay, this is starting to turn into a different episode. So I discovered my values, and my dream life, whatever I'm building, it has to have this ingredient. So I have to be prioritizing my own happiness. I have to make myself happy. And I also have to make the world a better place. And I have to do both of them. I can't do one or the other. And if you're struggling with this concept of prioritizing yourself, it might be the second podcast episode called Your Happiness is a Priority. That's a wonderful, wonderful episode. A vintage episode at this point. Okay. That's the first ingredient. Can you think of what your values might be? It might be something that you believe a supernatural entity or a spiritual force of the universe has given you. Or you might do a riff on that. You might take that as a starting point and then figure out how it applies to you. Or maybe you're just going to figure out your own thing. Or maybe you can just borrow mine for the time being, which it's a good one. So try it out. The second ingredient is people. In your dream life, what are these dream people that you have in it? For me, and perhaps for you too, and perhaps for just about everybody, there's a significant other or significant others, if you're adventurous, a companion whom you can share a special kind of love that we get to experience as mammals. Maybe this is someone that you start a family with, meaning kids. Of course, you don't have to have kids to be a family. You could have a family, just the two of you, or a family plus a furry friend or two, like a dog or a cat, or some crazy other adventurous pet you could have. But there might be a dream person. There might also be friends. How many friends is your dream? Do you want a big social circle? Do you want to be at the center of the social circle? Or do you want to just have this friend who throws all the parties and you just want to get invited to it, and you pop in and get to be social while hiding in the corner? Maybe you want to be involved in your community as, you want to gather everyone and go pick up the trash on your streets, or you want to volunteer with the kids who are underprivileged and, give them some guidance, help feed them, play basketball with them, whatever it is. What are the people in your dream job? What is the social life you have? For me, it is having a partner whom is extremely loving, extremely playful, and is also enthusiastic or interested or is okay with an open relationship. Because I derive a lot of, basically, pretty much all of my friendships are people, I don't know how much I can say in the podcast, but flings to friendships, I guess, is the story of just about all the close people in my life. So that's how I gather close people in my life, and to have a loving partner whom I can perhaps start a family with, and to have that be compatible with the way that I make friends. So that is the people, that is the recipe for my dream life. So we have values, we have people. Next up, I said game. What does this mean? Let me make sure I'm recording, because I am killing this. Okay, this is so much better than the previous attempts that I had, because I'm getting through it. I'm not getting bogged down. Okay, what is a game? Is it like a video game? Not exactly, although it could be. In my case, it kind of is. It is either your profession, or because a profession requires money to be made, and oftentimes it's outside of your control whether there's an industry for your activity. Basically, the game is, what is the thing that you like to do while you're awake that makes you glad to be awake? And maybe you don't have this yet, but maybe you like playing volleyball. Maybe you like to write poetry. Maybe you like to bake. Maybe you like to, skateboard. All of these things I'm calling a game. And it's wonderful when your game can also be your job. And that's not always possible, because a lot of activities, there is no money to be made. Or there is money to be made by a very select few. And I would encourage you, if you're really into it and you really have the drive, it's all about the drive and the I don't want to say discipline, but if you can set the habit of getting better at your activity, you can make money at it, if it is possible at the top. But anyway, think about your life, little bunny. Is there an activity or a collection of activities that you really, really love to do? Your dream life is one where you do these activities and you keep getting better and better at them. Maybe one is dancing. It doesn't have to be just one activity, just one game. You can have multiple games. If you remember to what I said about that glimmer of hope I had, it was New York City composer. The key there, what's the game in there, little bunny? The game, of course, is composer. And there's when I got to New York City, which again, I'm doxing myself a little bit, but I'm just going to be brave. And I guess it's important for me to be able to tell you the things that I've discovered about myself. But anyway, I wasn't a composer for a few years because my game at that point was a job that was related, you could say, to composing in a very uncreative way. And so it was kind of half compatible with my dream life. And I was happy with that because I was still in the rebuild phase of my life. So to have a half game, that's my dream. That's wonderful. Okay, I can't dox myself too much, but there's various other activities that I was doing. Okay, so think about your activities. But yeah, the composer thing, I'm finally doing some composition. And trying to debate telling you, well, I'll just tell you, I'm writing music for a video game. Isn't that awesome? That was quite literally a dream growing up. So in the spirit of dream life, wow, I'm really, really doing well. Okay. So your game is the activities. Now, the last one is the location. So we have values, we have people, we have game, and then we have your location. I already told you what my location is. I'm tempted to go cut it out, but I don't know. I'm just very privacy conscious, so I guess it's okay. I've mentioned it in a Q&A before, so whatever. Okay, so for me, New York City gives me an incredible amount of energy. And I need energy, little bunny. You would not believe it, but I'm quite a low energy individual. Isn't that crazy? I'm so lazy. I'm so lethargic all the time. You'll notice that in these ramble episodes, I'm going to be yawning all of the time. So that's why I need New York City, is because it's just an injection of energy. And when we get to talking about the little bunnies on the Discord, when I asked them what their dreams are, a lot of them wanted to escape into the wilderness to escape from the energy of the city. So what is your location, little bunny? And if you're not quite sure yet, we'll go through some ideas and you can take some ideas from your fellow little bunnies. But is there a place that you want to be? Have you always dreamt of living in Paris? Or always dreamt in living on the beach? Or an island in the Pacific or something? Or have you dreamt of traveling? That's possible today. We'll talk about that in the future. In the future of this podcast even. So, okay. We'll review the 4 one more time. Then we're going to talk about the little bunnies in the Discord, which is part of the locked section of the garden, aka Patreon, which is 18 plus. So if you're not 18, just be patient. Okay. Those are your 4 ingredients: values, people, game, location. Now, let me read off. I put a post in the Discord and I said, little bunnies, what are your dreams? And I kind of composited a little of them, or all of them. It's a bit of a mix. Let me take a sip of my cold tea. I'm doing a much better job this time around. Hold on one second. Ooh, do you want the ASMR? Let's do it. I also wonder whether I'm talking too fast. I have quite a bit of energy right now. I caffeinated extremely heavily. So let's take a breath together. You come to me to calm down oftentimes, don't you? And sometimes I fail because I get so excited about helping you, little bunny. Can you tell what a big game in my life is? Can't believe I didn't talk about this game. It's you, little bunny, making your life better, making the garden for you, making the garden for me, honestly. I win just as much as you do. Who could have the extraordinary amount of love that I get and not see that as a win? It's not a competition to see who benefits the most from the garden, but this is certainly no sacrifice, little bunny. Goes back to what we were talking about, which I can't wait to do a full episode on that. It doesn't have to be this either or, like either I'm going to be happy or I'm going to make the world a better place and be miserable at the same time. And I'm doing things that are, someday I will tell you about the job that I had. But I was not making the world a better place. I wasn't making it that much worse, but I was making it slightly worse. Oh, God. So, much better now. Win-win. That's what we're all about. Okay. Dreams of little bunnies on the Discord. So I'm going to frame this as ideas for you to get your imagination running. So maybe you, in this previous section where I talked about my 4 ingredients of my dreams, maybe you knew exactly what your answers were. Or maybe you feel just as lost as when you emailed me that you're going to clean your room because you don't quite know what it is yet. What it is that's going to make me proud. What is the direction? What is the spark of joy that's going to bring you out of this phase and get you into the best chapter of your life? Because it's not going to come find you. Okay, I have come found you. And now you have to do the work, but it's not really work. All you have to do is do what I say. Okay, use this to jog your memory. Do you dream, little bunny, of living where you can see the northern lights? Or maybe live in a cabin in the woods where you can escape the city? That's the opposite of me. Maybe you want to adopt a bunch of fluffy dogs. So that previous one, the northern lights and the city, which category, which of the 4 ingredients is that? You should know them by now. It is the location. Okay? Do you want to adopt a bunch of furry animals like some big fluffy dogs? What is that one, little bunny? Which ingredient is that of your dream job? That is the people, because I guess dogs are people in the garden. Little bunnies are people in the garden. I always wonder whether I should say people or say little bunnies, and I think it's all the same. You're a little bunny and a person. Okay. Do you want to travel the world and write? Maybe it's a blog. Maybe it's a YouTube channel of travel. Maybe you're writing fiction. What if the fiction takes place in all these locations you visit? What if it's poetry that you're inspired by your surroundings? What is this, little bunny? This is 2 things. This is your location and your game. So the game is the activities that you do while you're traveling. And if you think back to what a game is, it can be something you do for pleasure. It can be something you do purely to make money. Or if you're lucky, it can be some kind of combination of the 2. And we live in an incredible time for those of us who want to travel. I will say, as a public service announcement, don't take unnecessary flights because we need to cut down our carbon emissions, and flights are horrible for that. But we live in an age where you can travel and be nomadic. So not travel and take a 2-week vacation. The old way of traveling is you have your job and you save up the vacation, and once a year you go with the wife and kids to the beach or something, or you go skiing and you spend a week there, and then you come back and you go through another year looking forward to that 1 week where you get to go travel. We live in such a different time now, little bunny. And if your dream includes travel, the travel being your location, you need a game that is compatible with that. Because if you can have a game where you work from your laptop, one where you can make money from just your laptop and an internet connection, you can do what's called being a digital nomad. And maybe you already know what this is, but basically, you might think of traveling as being very expensive. And it is if you travel to expensive countries. Getting there is often expensive, but there's clever ways you can find budget airlines, and there's certain you can sign up for lists where when a certain cheap flight drops, you can grab it and then you can go. But if you work from your laptop and you make a decent amount of money, you can live quite luxuriously in a lot of countries in the world. And if you have this impression of this quote unquote third world country, it's a bit of a stereotype at this point. This is when your teachers back in elementary school are telling you how fortunate you are. At least they told us in America, and we're notoriously oblivious to the rest of the world. They told us how terrible the rest of the world is, and 99% of people are walking around barefoot in the sand, in the jungle, and all these things. And then when you travel, at least today, the world is becoming very, very developed. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent, but if you want to travel, this is your location, your dream location, and then I want you to start thinking of a game that might work with traveling. So in this bunny that I was talking about from the Discord, they wanted to write poetry. Maybe you could do a blog. Maybe you can write fiction. Start thinking of these synergies, because when we get to the end of this list, we are going to have a dream that hits all four. Okay, back to the list. One of our little bunnies wants to open a bakery. And what is that, little bunny? Which of the four? Let me say the four again, in case you're confused. Okay, let me scroll up. It is your values. It is the people. It is your game. And it is your location. So this little bunny who wants to be a baker, that is their game. And with this bakery, they want to also use it to help feed the homeless and give the homeless delicious food that they might not ordinarily get to eat. So what is that one? They want to use their bakery. They want to use their game to do something that aligns with their what, little bunny? Their values. So this little bunny knows some of their values. And they also, in addition to helping feed the homeless with their bakery, they want to host parties with their fellow bunnies in the garden. Isn't that really sweet? I can't wait for this day to come. And I know that this little bunny will achieve it, because they are wonderfully motivated and they are also smiling at this very moment. Okay, hosting the parties with their fellow bunnies. Which one is that? What ingredient is that? Ingredient, get it? That is the people, okay? The dream people for them is to host their fellow bunnies with a tea time with delicious baked goods. Another one wants a partner who will treat them like a Disney princess. Or perhaps you want a partner who is a Disney princess. These are, of course, the people that you want. Maybe you want a partner who doesn't expect you to be a Disney princess and doesn't wish you to be one. Finding the partner who is right for you and who aligns with perhaps the values that you hold. Maybe another bunny says they want a small family. Maybe you want a big family. These are people, dream people in your life. One of them wants to become a pharmacist and help people with ailments and conditions that are often overlooked. So this is a combination of two ingredients. Which two are they, little bunny? You should know by now. The pharmacist is a game, and the helping of people who are overlooked is a value. So that's an example of a value and a game working in tandem. And remember, our dream, this thing we're going to be working towards, this glimmer of hope that you're going to have, that the garden is going to give you, that I am going to help you discover, has all four. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the list. Another little bunny wants to get into politics and public policy and to enact change in their communities and perhaps the country and perhaps the world, to change it into a world that they see as a better place. And I can pretty much guarantee that their vision is a better place. And I hope that little bunnies take over the world. Man, that would be a much, much better world. Although the world is probably quite a bit better right now than you think it is. And we'll do another episode on that. That's not to say the world isn't without extreme difficulties, and there's a lot of work to be done, but there are many reasons to be optimistic. So we'll talk about that later. Okay. Last couple. I'll say the last one. A little bunny thinks it would be nice to grow their own food. That's wonderful to have a little garden in your backyard, to have your own tomatoes, maybe own your own chickens, and have your most ethically sourced eggs. What is this? What does this fall under? To grow your own food. That is a game. You're not going to make money growing your own food. Maybe you'll save a little money. Maybe you'll lose a little money. But a game doesn't have to be something that you earn money at. And a way that could be synergizing is if you care about the treatment of chickens, at least the chickens who lay eggs, and I won't go too much into animal rights right now, but there's a lot of improvement to be made in everything related to chickens and food. So if you have your own chickens, then that is also a value, and you can have a dream value. So owning your own chickens and having your own garden in your backyard, that is a game, and that is values. Okay, you're up, little bunny. I've told you my ingredients. I've told you the ingredients of many bunnies in the locked section of the garden, the key holder bunnies, so to speak. And now you are up. What's the first one? Okay, get out your notes. This is where it happens. It's either a note on your phone or it's a journal with the fancy colored markers. Ooh, a next merch idea. I don't know when it's going to be. I'm going to add to the merch store little by little. By the way, if you're not aware, the merch store has just launched publicly, and right now we have a hoodie and a sticker, and both of them are high quality, which is why it took me a while to open the store, because I wanted to make sure they were good. Okay, because you don't deserve junk, just like why I re-recorded this podcast so many times. All right, test time. What are the 4 ingredients to a dream life, to your dream life? Now, I will say, before you write down, or you might have to write this down again, you do need an order to these, because that will help you determine which dream, because there might be multiple scenarios where you're hitting all four, but you're not always going to be hitting all four optimally, if that makes sense. So we want to order these in the order that means the most to us. So maybe you're not very values driven. So values might not be your number one, like it is for mine. Maybe you don't care about your location. Maybe that'll be last. Although I would like for you to care about your location. We'll find subtle ways for you to have a dream location. Maybe your profession doesn't matter so much. It's like if you're really good at clocking in and clocking out of a job, then your game can be less important, because that means you can make money doing a much wider variety of things that aren't as much fun. Not to say that work is inherently fun. If you're lucky, it is. If you're like the majority of us, it's not. But me, for instance, I have no ability to clock out. When I had my office job, as soon as I left, all I was thinking about was the work for the next day, the things I didn't get done, the things I got done that I didn't do a good job on, and wondering if that was going to come back and bite me in the butt. And even on weekends, all I could think about was Monday. So that was the wrong game for me. And I clearly am a person, because I cannot clock in and out. And it's important to know yourself. I need a job where I enjoy being clocked in. And so that's the life that I'm building. And you can help me build this life by sharing every TikTok that you see on your For You page and commenting on each one, because you would not believe, little bunny. Let me just tangent 1 second. Plenty of people press like on my TikToks. Plenty. There are fewer that hit share and who comment. And this is to be expected. There's kind of a diminishing number of people who will comment, and then a diminishing number who will share. But this means, little bunny, we can hack the system. Because if you share, just find someone that you can send the link to. It can be fake. Pick one person or send it to like a fake account you have. I think maybe even clicking copy link counts as a share. But if only 1 in 1,000 views clicks share, and if every little bunny who listens to the podcast clicks share, I will go so much more viral. Okay? It does an extraordinary amount of good to the garden when you click share. And commenting is also good. But especially click share, because we can crank up the algorithm's esteem of my content. And every time one of my TikTok goes viral, the patrons just start flooding in, and the podcast listeners start flooding in. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, subscribe to the freaking podcast, because when I get a podcast sponsor that's not going to try and shove an ad in the middle of my time with my little bunny, don't be ridiculous. Of course, I'm not going to let that happen. Then that's a quite large amount of money, and we're growing to a point where it will pay for some pretty cool things. So, okay, let's get back to business. Okay, here's the 4 things, and I want you to rank them. So I'm going to say them in my order, and then I'm going to quiz you, and you're going to write them in your order. So my order is values, then people, then game, then location. And for me, they happen to all be quite important because if you remember my glimmer of hope, it was New York City composer. New York City is such a spark for me. And that's the fourth most important, that's the fourth in line ingredient for me. So it doesn't have to be a big difference, but this is the order that you're going to make your decisions in about what your dream is that you're going to focus on. So think of your order. What is it? And I want you to, in your mind, read it out to me once you've got it. Okay. Now, let's think. You should have your journal. We'll just go in my order. At this point, you might want to take another pass at this and do it in your order, because once you do the first one, you've narrowed down the possible dream lives that you have, because there are multiple. There's not this one dream life. There's not this one calling that you have. That would be ridiculous, because there's so many activities, so many things you haven't explored, that you can't explore, that you don't even know about, that of course we don't have this one calling. And if you don't have your one calling, it just means you haven't looked enough yet, little bunny. So don't give up, okay? It might take you a while to find it, but there is something out there for you. In fact, statistically, there are many things out there for you. So, what are your values? If you are religious and this religion is something that you have chosen for yourself, it may coincidentally be the culture that you're already a part of. It may coincidentally be your parents' religion, but I strongly encourage you not to simply adopt what has been handed to you. I think that it's a discovery that you should go on yourself. And if you have a religion that gives you a set of values, and it's a religion that you yourself feel compelled to follow, what is a value in there, especially a value that really resonates with you? Because a lot of religions have many values built into them. What is one specific one? And I don't want to answer for you. I don't want to lead you on this. I've given you a lot of examples from myself and from other little bunnies. What is a value you have? And after you've done a lot of journaling, you may even put your own purpose of your life. Next up, for me, the second one. So I have my value. I won't talk about me anymore. The next one up is people. This is, what do you want from a significant other? And I would caution you from trying to narrow people down, especially in stupid ways. So I'm a very statistics-oriented person, and we're going to talk about statistics all the time in the garden. But imagine, and I'm guilty of this at one point, imagine that you find people, imagine if you find left-handedness attractive. I find left-handedness kind of attractive, interestingly enough. There's something very appealing about a partner who's left-handed. I just like it. But if I were to say, okay, part of my conditions for a partner, for my dream partner, is that they are left-handed. Well, that's kind of stupid. Not because it's not a valid desire. I think your desires are valid. I think it's fine to be attracted to people who are left-handed, or to be attracted more than typical. But you're narrowing down. Let's say that you meet 10,000 people, viable partners within your life. Okay, you're down to 1,000 now for kind of a ridiculous thing. It could be other ways of What if height is one? I know for people who have kind of a femme mentality, there's an appeal for someone who's 6 feet and taller. And you should ask yourself, is 6 the magic number? Or do you want someone who's taller than you, for instance? And if you can rank order the important things, try and put, maybe you do get someone who's 6 feet and taller, but that's, I think, like 15%. If you're looking for someone who is male, I think it's around 15%. And I don't know if that's worldwide or in the United States. I'm not sure. Either way, it's very tempting to narrow down as much as possible. And then you might look around and say, there's no one for me. Okay. You can still be attracted to someone who's 6 feet and taller. You can still be attracted to someone who's left-handed. And maybe these things are very valuable to you. But what is the most valuable thing to you? What if it's someone who wants to have 3 kids? That's the kind of thing that you might want to rank pretty high. What if there's someone who's 6 feet 3 and left-handed, but they don't want kids, but you want kids? Anyway, don't narrow down in the wrong order. Okay. Okay. So what kind of partner do you want? Think about the traits that are most important to you. And it might be kids. Whether you want kids is an important one. It might be the way that they treat you. You can think about do you tend to fall for people who are toxic? Well, I won't get into attraction too much. This is a separate episode. I'm getting bogged down. But what kind of partner do you want? What kind of social circle do you want? Do you want to be the one who's throwing all these big parties? Do you want to be the friend that gets invited? Do you want to have this one best friend that you do everything with? I don't have that one best friend, and that's not particularly a priority for myself. I would much rather have a legion of little bunnies who love me and whom I love in return. So, what is your dream people in your life? Okay, let's move on. Getting bogged down. Next one for me is game. Okay, these are your activities. Is there a profession or an industry that you feel interested in? Do you love cars? Do you want to get into cars in some way, whether you're going to be a mechanic? Maybe if you have a dream, maybe you really love Formula One racing. Do you have a dream to get involved in that? What if you have skills in broadcasting and you want to get into broadcasting for Formula One? There's all kinds of ways you can get into cars. I personally don't care about cars at all. In fact, I love that you don't need a car for New York City. Okay. And if, let's say you don't know what your game or games are right now, we are going to go at some point in an episode through a process of discovery of different activities that you can do that you might not ever have thought of. Have you ever tried ceramics, little bunny? Have you ever played squash? Have you ever played kickball? You're not going to make money playing kickball, but if you're able to clock in and out, and you can pick a game where you make money in a way that that it doesn't have to, what's the word? Invigorate you in any given moment, then maybe your game can be kickball. And maybe you can get really, really good at kickball. Maybe it's dancing, little bunny. Is there a kind of dancing? Maybe the kind of dancing that you want to do, you haven't even discovered yet. What if you don't even know it exists? Okay, and lastly, your location. Is there a city? Is there a countryside? Is there a setting? Is it the mountains? Is it the beach? Is it the forest? Is it the Arctic? Is it an old city? Is it a bustling city with new developments in East Asia or on the west coast of the United States? Is it somewhere with a lot of history? Is it somewhere with a lot of art where people gather? Is it somewhere that has a very specific industry where maybe your game is scuba diving and you want to go to that city where all the best scuba divers gather? And that brings me to getting all of these together. Once you have this location, let me back up. We're going to start with the top one. Okay? What is your first ingredient to your dream life? Okay? When you pick something that works in this ingredient, you by definition have cut out different future lives for yourself. You go to the next one, number 2 in the list. See, it's important that you rank order these. Number 2 in your list, it's going to narrow down your possible futures a little bit more. Okay? Then you go to your third one. Look at your third one. What have you written down? You're narrowing down even further. So let me use this last example that I did. What if your value is to live a life of adventure? What if your people is to be like really, really good at something, to be this sounds terrible, but to like be better than other people at something, to achieve something at a very high level, to be someone noteworthy in your social circle, in the people in your life. You want to be high status of some kind. So what if your value is you want to be adventurous, you want to be high status at something? Then your game. Okay, let's go through the top 2. You're now able to choose from any game where you have adventure, any game where that adventure can have high status. And maybe you love scuba diving. You love the ocean. Okay? That can be high status because maybe you want to be a scuba dive instructor, someone who's done so much scuba diving, or a guide. Maybe you're guiding people. There's profession, there's money to be made being a high status scuba diver. I'm not sure you can like do competitive scuba diving or anything, but you can be a professional scuba diver. One second. And so now you've gotten this far. You have one more ingredient to get to. You are not going to choose the Arctic to look at the northern lights. That is not your dream life. Okay? Part of the dream life is that you're accepting the this feels weird to say. It's very anti-garden, but I'm going to say it briefly and then I'm going to take it back. You have to accept the constraints of reality. So if your dream is to win the lottery, you need to accept the constraints that you're most likely going to live in poverty, having bought a bunch of worthless lottery tickets. But maybe the dream to win the lottery is so important that like it's worth the risk. You have to live within the confines of what can actually happen. And I will say that what can happen is much more under your control than you think. Winning the lottery, not under your control. Becoming an incredible scuba diver, absolutely 100% under your control. Don't sit there dreaming of someday being a scuba diver, but then you're not making any kind of progress. Think back to last week's episode. You're at the fork in the road. Maybe the scuba diver is your dream. 1 year from now, you'll send me the email that says, Daddy, I went snorkeling on vacation. That would make me so, so proud. Okay, so the last one there, the location, of course. Because of the constraints of the above three, you're not going to be a professional scuba dive instructor living in the Rocky Mountains, to state the obvious. But you can pick of so many locations. Where in the world is there great scuba diving? Maybe you want to go to Australia. Oh my God, that's your dream, little bunny. You want to be a scuba dive instructor in Sydney. Now, this is just one of many possible dreams you can have. And in fact, you might change your idea. You might listen to this episode again and come out with a totally different set of ideas. And that's okay. And in fact, you can have multiple things that are valid. For me, we'll wrap it up with my ingredients to a dream life. I had a life of zero, and I had a privileged life of zero, I will say. So I'm not trying to make it a rags to riches story. But mentally, my God, was I at zero. And I worked through this to figure out how I could get out of this. I did not wait around. And some number of years later, I am living my dream life. And the ingredients of this dream life can be instilled. Is it instilled? I'm not quite sure the word. Distilled, perhaps, can be distilled into these 4 ingredients. And for me, it's in this order. My values is to prioritize my own happiness and leave a net positive effect on civilization. You, little bunny, fulfill the values of my life. And you are also my game, because I can do many, many things with those values. In fact, when I left my office job and embarked on this crazy dream, I had multiple different things, and I still do multiple things. One of which, of course, is the composing. And I ended up fulfilling that dream. But I'll talk about you as my dream right now, because as you can tell, I pour my soul into being here for you in as many ways as I can. So, of the values I have, there are many, many, many things I could do. And the next up is the people. So the people, I wanted to find a loving partner who is playful. This partner is referred to as Queen Little Bunny in the garden. And we have an open relationship, as well as we intend to spend the rest of our lives together. And we like to dream of starting a family, although we're not quite there yet. And I say starting a family, we already are a family. I don't like that term, requiring kids. Okay, so I have my values. I have a compatible person with these values, because the value is prioritize my own happiness. If I get into a closed relationship, I'm not going to be happy, little bunny. And part of my value in people's is, you remember that I bond with the people. I don't know what words I can use in the podcast. I haven't quite decided. But I'll say intimate relationships with. These are the people that I bond with the most, and that's how I bond with people. So to have a loving, open relationship that is, we're life partners, and also to have other people, and also have this be compatible with my values. We are doing well. Okay, then we go to the next one on the list. Picking the game, little bunny. I have many games, one of which is the composition, some of which are things that I won't share in the podcast. And one of them is the garden. The garden falls under my values. The people, especially because the garden has an 18 plus spicy side of it, which I will always have that. Because if I didn't have that, then I would be losing one of the values in my people, or one of the ingredients requirements of the people ingredient, which is to have these spicy connections. So my game aligns with the people, it aligns with the values. And then the last one, little bunny, we're narrowing down to the very fourth one. I have always dreamt of New York City, and I love the energy that it brings. But it is the lowest on the list, even though it's my dream city, little bunny. I have said in a previous podcast that however quickly I can make lots of money doing the garden, of course, it's not for the money, but it's one of possible ways of making money. And I'm for sure going to do this instead of make the world slightly worse in an office. You got to be kidding me. Because game, which is the garden, is higher than location. You know how I talked about being a nomad, a digital nomad. I will either go travel the world at very cheap countries or move to a very fantastic city in Latin America. And I'm pretty close. Within a year, I'll be able to be self-sufficient in that city. So I will move locations if the garden doesn't grow fast enough. Anyway, so those are my 4 so far, and I'm able to live in New York City for the time being, and very likely I will get to stay here. Okay. Big pause because I got to figure out how to finish this. Okay, so that's my ingredients to a dream life. Figure out yours. It's a funnel, all right? You pick the first one. You think of all the possible things you can do. Go to the next one, find all the things that are compatible with the one above. Next one, find the things that are compatible with the one above. Next one, find the things that are compatible with the ones above. And then you have any number of dreams you can pick from. And whichever one excites you, I want you to latch onto that. Listen to last week's podcast. And 1 year from now, I want to hear how you have taken the steps in that direction. You got it, little bunny? Okay. Now is when we would do announcements. I don't think there's really announcements. Share my TikToks when they pop up. Comment on them. Especially share, because share is the one that happens the least, just generally speaking, on the internet. So if you share, just make a point to share, even if you're sharing to nobody. That makes me go viral, and that grows the garden like you would not believe. Okay, that's an announcement. The locked audio this past week from Patreon was a spicy audio. We played a game, not to use the word game in the same way as this podcast. That's great. It's 18 plus. And the Discord is part of the locked section of the garden. We've got a lot of new bunnies, and we're making lots of friends. And I think that's all for the announcements. So I will slow us back down, and I will read for you the poem I wrote for you today. Let's plan out your dream. Remember 10,000, the number. And with that stat, we'll find your dream to guide you when you wake from slumber. We'll find some sparks of hope, of wishes that inspire you. And at first, these wishes will guide us to the people who will hire you. So remember, there's 10,000 choices of jobs, and we'll start by cutting the bad ones where your joy is being robbed. Now we're down to just 1,000, but there's still 10,000 people. And the values from your soul, or from that building with the steeple, what mission guides your life? It's okay to pick one that's easy. It's fine for it to be unique, or to pick one that's cheesy. So now let's filter these 10,000 people for the traits that you find attractive. Perhaps you're looking for someone with charm, or who's tall and physically active. And there's more games to pick than just ones about money. Maybe join an improv group and meet new people who are funny. And where will you live when you've filtered this far? A city with bustling people, or the countryside with a car? Do you choose to live in mountains and climb to the highest of heights, or do you choose an Arctic cabin and watch the northern lights? You're dreaming now, bunny. This dream, it is real. An achievable plan, this spark that you feel. Your values, your people, your games, and location. With all four, you'll find your forever vacation. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, little bunny. I think about you all the time. I'm always with you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Okay, gotta go, but not really. I'm staying with you. Okay, bye.